So now that we're done talking about James Somerton and his return to the internet, go watch the other video that I did on that. We need to talk about Piers Morgan being right for once in his life. It's very, very strange, but awkwardly, you are going to be rooting for a villain this time. We just did a video asking a villain to redeem themselves. Now we're going to be rooting for a villain the entire time, and it's going to feel very, very strange. But first, the fan art section. This one is from Riddle of Lightning, and it's from my Magic the Gathering stuff that I've been doing recently. Rainbow Rock goes in every deck. Honored Heirloom is a wonderful card that can exile cards from people's graveyards while also being a 3-mana rock that people apparently hate on Magic, hate in Magic now. Because content creators on the internet influence way more of your opinions on cardboard than that should be. Like, I'm sorry. People who talk about 3-mana rocks in a bad light and only in a bad light are just wrong on the internet. Sorry. Anyways, thank you for your fan art submission. Let's go ahead and get into Piers Morgan being right for the first time ever. So this clip here, Broseph, Stalin, Ashok Kumar, put it in here. I do not know if they are the person who originally owned this clip from TikTok, but that is where I'm pulling this from. But here we go. Let's go ahead and share on a villain together, everybody.
How many civilians do you believe you've killed?
So, for perspective, this is obviously about the war in the Middle East. This is about Israel's genocide of the Palestinians.
We don't have exact figures, as you know. It's the fog of war.
But you've got exact numbers for Hamas terrorists you've killed. Why wouldn't you know how many civilians you've killed?
Because obviously our focus is to go after the Hamas terrorists. And
how do you identify a Hamas terrorist from a civilian in a zone that is entirely militarized because of Netanyahu? How do you tell the difference between the two of them? Don't worry, Piers Morgan is going to be able to manage this one for me instead.
And
hang on, I mean, that does imply that you're putting a bigger premium on killing Hamas terrorists in terms of numbers and accountability than you are on innocent civilians. That can't be right, surely. If you know exactly how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, you must know how many civilians you've killed.
Correct. If you bomb a hospital, as the IDF probably has done, if you bomb a school, as the IDF probably has done, if you bomb any center, there will be civilian casualties. There will also be Hamas casualties. You see where I'm going with this? If our bomb kills 100 people, and we know that, and we know that 33 of them were Hamas terrorists, how many civilians are dead? Go ahead. Let me know in the comment section below. If we know that 34,567, I'm only a few numbers off in that estimate, by the way, people were killed in Palestine by the IDF, then I have a question. How many of those are Hamas? If we have numbers on how many of those are Hamas, then wouldn't that necessarily mean that we know that the other not Hamas people were not Hamas? And if they were not Hamas, doesn't that mean that we know what they are now? I mean, they're not Hamas in a largely militarized zone, and the only target's Hamas, which must make everyone else a civilian, right? So we should know those numbers, right?
Otherwise, you're prioritizing the lives of terrorists over innocent people.
Piers, with respect, don't put words into my mouth, please. I didn't say exactly 14,000. I said around 14,000, whereas Hamas will come out with precise numbers.
So if we know that around 14,000 of the people you've killed are Hamas and 34,000 deaths have been recorded around abouts that way, then you could say around 20,000 civilian deaths have happened. That would be an accurate number, would it not?
That statisticians
give me
will
a
look at
ballpark number for civilians.
Well, you can
20,000. The ballpark number for civilians then would be 20,000. The number of Palestinians who have been killed in the conflict in Gaza so far is about 34,000. If 14,000 of them are Hamas and they are confirmed Hamas, then the answer is 20,000. You have to admit that you have been more effective at killing civilians than you have been at killing your actual enemy.
You can use the ballpark as far as the the Hamas figures, which I reject as being false.
Well, if they're false, why would you give me those?
I gave you the numbers that I had.
No, you told me you know how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, but you don't seem to have any idea how many civilians you've killed. I'm just bemused. Why wouldn't you keep count of both?
I don't have that information to give you, Piers. If I did, I would.
You literally no idea how many civilians you've been killing.
I can tell you definitively that our aim is to go after Hamas.
No,
We've done it successfully.
I'm sorry to push you on this. That's quite extraordinary. You're an official spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea how many civilians you've killed. I thought you just told me that you were particularly careful about not killing civilians. But
they're so careful that 20,000 of them are dead.
If you don't know how many you've killed, how can you say that with any certainty?
Because even if you were to go by a ratio of the Hamas figures, we would still be far ahead of any Western army.
That wasn't my question. You know it wasn't my question.
I don't have the information.
Well, you literally have no idea how many civilians you've killed.
It's not that I don't know. I'm not authorized to give the information. I don't have the information.
That's complete nonsense. Why are you authorized to give me the number of terrorists you've killed, but not the number of civilians? I don't understand.
Gaza's health ministry said Thursday that the number of Palestinians killed in the war surpassed 30,000. The official number, as of February 29th, was 30,035. The official number, since the last time I checked, was 34,000. But I'm pulling this one up right now just to make sure that I've got it right. As of February, so these are not accurate numbers, 30,035 deaths have been reported in Palestine. Even with this number, which is now officially a conservative estimate, because February is a month earlier in the year than May, even in that scenario, you have killed 16,000 more civilians than you have killed actual militant resistance. My guy, you are awful at this. No wonder that our politicians are trying to get rid of TikTok right now, despite my reservations about that site's fucking existence in the first place, or app's fucking existence in the first place. No wonder they want to get rid of it, because people like you are the ones providing the sound bites. Jesus balls. I like how he's just
authorized to give me the number of terrorists you've killed, but not a number of civilians.
He's stuck there.
Can you explain?
Piers, we will go after Hamas. We will ensure that we.
You want me to believe you're being incredibly careful about how many civilians you're killing, and you have an amazing exemplary record, but you don't know how many civilians you're killing. So how do I know you've been careful?
Piers, when the dust settles, we will come out with the proper numbers. Hamas runs to the press daily with false.
When the dust settles, a lot of people will have died, and you know how many Hamas you've killed, but you don't know how many civilians you've killed. And I'm just asking you why. Why is it you've kept a record of one, but not the other?
I personally don't have that information to give to you. You can ask me over and over. I'm not going to come up with more information. I don't personally.
You don't know.
I don't have that information for you.
But you're an official government.
So he knows, but he's not going to give the answer because the answer makes Israel look really bad.
I'm a spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea.
Piers, I came on here to focus on what's going on with the war.
Well, actually, you came on here to ask.
Well, what's going on with the world is you're killing Palestinian civilians. Yes, there are people in Hamas you are killing, and that's your primary target. The civilians are also dying.
So my questions, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for you for that.
And I didn't intend to press you on this point because I assumed that you would not respond the way you have. But I've never had an Israeli spokesman who simply said, I have no idea. Particularly after you boasted about the fact that you've been very smart in the way you've avoided killing civilians. How do you know if you've got no idea how many you've killed?
Because I know the way in which the IDF operates. I know the way in which we go after the terrorists in the best possible way. It's not what I...
So we've said the same thing about our own military in the United States, and then we find some soldiers that rape civilians, and then we have to court-martial those soldiers. And then we have to pretend that it never happens because we know the way our military operates, and then our military operates in ways outside of that and hurts a lot of people. It's so weird the way these apologetics have to go.
I've said it's what General Petraeus has said. It's what John Spencer from West Point has said. It's what multiple British generals have said. Israel goes out of its way to avoid civilian casualties. That's what we'll do. If you can point to me to another conflict by which they have evacuated, got out of harm's way civilians to the extent that Israel has done.
Hasn't a lot of the times where Israel has said that Palestinian civilians can evacuate, haven't most of the ways in which they would be able to evacuate been closed off or bombed or otherwise inoperable, which had led to those civilians dying anyway because they couldn't leave?
Then fine.
Sorry, with respect, Mr. Hyman, how can you possibly expect me to accept any comparisons to any other conflict or war, given that you do not know how many civilians you've killed?
Piers, you understand that I can't prosecute the war over the media.
I'm just asking you for basic information. I'm not trying to trap you. And I'm not trying to unfairly harangue you. I think people are watching this and they'll make their own conclusions. I just find it astonishing that the moment I asked you how many Hamas you killed, you could tell me immediately. And the moment I ask you about civilians, you haven't got a clue, literally.
Do 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 do. Just read this right here. It's so cool. Israel struck some areas it directed civilians to in Gaza. Israel has struck at least, this was in December, Israel struck at least 3 locations in Gaza, to which it had ordered civilians to evacuate since the breaking of a fragile truce between Israel and Hamas earlier this month. On December 1st, the IDF released a map of Gaza divided into 623 numbered blocks, indicating areas the military would immediately strike and areas to which civilians should flee. It was made accessible online via a QR code printed on leaflets dropped over the strip. Okay. CNN analysis showed that IDF instructions have, at times, been imprecise and confusing. That's an interesting way. That is an interesting way to call that. Regular IDF updates highlight numbered blocks in orange, urging citizens to evacuate to these locations and move to other areas labeled on the map. But some of the messaging has been contradictory, and concerns have also been raised over Palestinians' capacity to access the information due to power and telecommunication outages. Ah, yes, your area has no power, so just use that dead smartphone in your hand and scan this QR code to find out how not to die. That's wonderful. That's cool. That's cool. That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. More than anything. So this was in December. Yep. Ah, but don't worry. I wonder if there's any points at which Israel has violated national law, like international law, in regards to this. I wonder if there's any possible ways they've done any things they might have done that would have violated international law, like, I don't know, killing reporters. Israel tank strike kills clearly identifiable Reuters reporters in March of this year. Summary: UN peacekeepers investigated the October 13th incident. UNFL reported says 2 Israeli tanks hit reporters. Reports say strikes were in violation of international law. Man, I wonder if anything's going to happen to Israel because of violating international law like that. Man, I wonder if anybody's going to make them answer for those crimes. Or I wonder if their existence as a trade partner to the United States will make them basically immune to all of that. Man. Collective punishment targeting civilians, orchestrating a famine. Yup, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. Now, bear in mind, these are the conditions, and also Netanyahu's bullshit has also been part of the conditions that have led to Hamas existing in the first place. Doesn't justify any of the actions they've taken, but these are the material conditions that birth extremists. Like, you create the material conditions that make extremists happen, and then, oh no, I guess we have to go kill the extremists. We've killed 14,000 of them. There have been 30,000 deaths, though, so I guess 16 to 20,000 of those deaths were civilians. But I can't say that because on national TV, that looks like I'm admitting that my country is engaged in slaughtering a lot of people in Palestine wholesale. We've all wandered into a strange universe where Piers Morgan is the one making sense. Where Piers Morgan is the one who is actually doing the work here. So nobody should be the leader of the state, should be a leader of state since the 90s. Guess who orchestrated a famine? Stalin orchestrated the Holodomor? Yup. It is insane. It is insane. We live in a strange world where we have to agree with Piers Morgan on something. What a weird timeline we live in. This entire thing's fucked up. Hit the like button if you haven't already. I'm done with this particular topic. I'm stopping. Insert a video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Blitzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.